If you look around your workshop or your home, there's those everyday items that at first glance might look boring, but when you add them together, they can create something pretty spectacular. Like the good old bucket. That looks boring. Or a bag of sand. You can't get any more boring than that. But if I add those two things with some concrete and some timber, I can create something pretty spectacular. The first thing I'm going to do is cut this bucket in half. And by me cutting this in half and retaping it and forming basically a concrete pot, by the time my concrete's set, this is going to make it a lot easier to take the cast off. What do you do when you cut a bucket in half? Just use some tape to stick it back together. This is actually the formwork which is going to hold our concrete in place until it sets. And that is going to be making the base for a very funky side table. Now, I'm just going to mix up the concrete. And when it comes to the mix, I've made it nice and wet. That way, when I pour it in, it makes it nice and easy to work with. And to form up our shape, I'm just putting a second bucket inside, and I'm going to use sand to weigh it down to hold it in place. With about 25 mil all around the edge, which we need to pour the rest of the concrete in there. I'm just going to use these timber wedges to evenly space it all the way around. You just want to make sure that you hit the bucket all the way around. That way you get rid of any air bubbles, and when you take the formwork out, you're left with a nice smooth surface. In the real world, you'd leave this to sit for about a week, but this is TV, so I click my fingers and we've got a nice dry bucket. Now, the next thing I need to do is crush the bucket in the centre, and then I'll take the outside bucket out, and fingers crossed, I'm left with a nice looking base. So far, so good. It's like it's my birthday and I'm unwrapping a present. Is it going to work? There's only one way to see. Ha-ha! And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the base for my side table. Now this has had time to fully set. You can see that it dries to a lighter colour. Now it's time for the top. I'm using some timber, and I think this pine slab right here will be perfect. Now, to stick with the round theme, I'm going to be using a router to shape my top into a circle. The other tip is to make sure that your top is fixed down, so I've just got a couple of screws in it. That way, it doesn't go flying off on you. I'm just going from corner to corner to find the centre. Because our top is going to be round, I'll drill a hole, which will allow the point of my router guide to sit there, and then I'll be able to take it around. And you'll notice when I went around, I did multiple passes, so I was just lowering the depth each time. It makes it easier to cut, and then you end up with a nice circle, like so. So I've just changed bits over in my router, and now what I'm going to do is create a 45-degree angle around the board. So I've shaped the top, I've sanded it, and now I'm ready to seal it. And for that, I'm just using some Danish oil. And then we'll be ready to attach the top to the base. Now it's time to join the two together. Oh, I am very happy with the way this has worked out. So with a boring bucket, some boring sand, some concrete and timber, we have created this spectacular side table.